Hey guys. Um, Man, it feels like it's been a long time, huh? How are y'all doing? I've heard from lots of you about crazy stuff that happened during our snowmageddon and not having power and having pipes break and all kinds of awfulness, and I'm so sorry to hear all that. I'm right here with you on it, but it's sure no fun. So, as we're all still digging out and trying to figure out what normal looks like again, I just wanted to go over some things that we have going on this week and to just play a little catch up from last week. So, for Module 6, the big takeaways from that were critical thinking. And of course, every time we're making a decision and we're looking at something from different vantage points, that's critical thinking. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you change your mind because you're a good critical thinker, but it also opens up the opportunity. Sometimes when you look at something from a different vantage point and you think, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Okay. So, like the election stuff that we just went through this past fall, think back to all the things that were being thrown around in the media and just in the news in general about how things were portrayed and what people were saying. And so just kind of consider that when you're going through your college journey. The idea is not in college to just have me, here you go, here you go, here you go, but rather be like one of those fussy toddlers who's like, oh no, because you want to know why, right? K-12, we're kind of not supposed to ask why all the time, right? And that's okay. That's part of the system. It's not a bad thing. It's just how that portion of our educational system is set up, right? But now in college, the whole idea is to ask why, because you're becoming content experts in your particular field. Because someone is going to ask you why. And you have to be able to know. So that's why it's important now. So critical thinking is huge. Then also I tossed in the stuff about the midterm. The midterm is due next week. But it's okay. It's not a huge midterm, right? And it's not some big honking test, and we're not filling any bubbles in on ABCD stuff because that wouldn't make any sense for this course anyway. What you are going to do is either make an actual poster, because some of you, no, lots of you have self-identified as being kinesthetic learners on BARC and in Smarter Measure, and you learn by doing. And so a good way to apply that type of learning that you are best at is to actually get, markers out and go to town on a poster board. I mean, you can still make a quality college level poster board, really. So there's that option. Or you can also make more slides. If you're like, yay, slides, then go for the slides. Do it. But either way, you're going to be talking about public narrative. Public narrative, if we look at those two words, public is like out and about, right? With other people. And narrative is a story. So a story within our communities. Okay? Now you're seeing 3 different types of stories in the public narrative thing. If you think about it this way, like concentric circles that get bigger, the first one that's closest to you is the story of self. So why do you care about whatever topic you're choosing to do your poster or slides on? okay? There is no shortage of topics that people have done and will do for public narrative. Like, that might be the hardest part of this, is narrowing down your topic. So it can be about pollution, it can be about politics, it can be about child abuse, it can be about the effects of drugs and alcohol, it can be about plagiarism, it can be about LGBTQ issues and concerns, it can be about religion, it can be about hunger, it can be about poverty, just really anything. So the way you choose is it's that thing that you think somebody should do something about that. You're not necessarily saying, me, I should go do something about that. It's just, wow, that thing's going on over there and somebody should do something about that. Okay? And man, have we had a lot of stuff going on in our own country, but all around the world recently that you could choose topics from that would apply where somebody's going, that's not okay. Something needs to be done. Okay? So you're going to choose your topic. You're going to say in the story of self, why do you care? Like, why'd you choose it? The next circle out, I know that our circles go around in a poster, but just to have a different way of thinking about this, the middle circle is the story of us. So if you were going to choose hunger on college campuses, then you're going to find news articles when you're looking for resources. You're going to find stories about college students who are facing hunger. You can't use mine. I've given you some. You have to go find some more. There's lots, I promise. But you have to say, this didn't happen to me, but it could have. That's how you know it's the story of us. Okay? So story of self is you. Like, why do you care? It's your own personal reason. Story of us is one ring out removed from you personally, and it didn't happen to you, but it could have, because you're talking about college students and you are a college student. Okay? Right. The most outer circle is the story of now. The story of now is really easy to figure out because it's also your topic. So that's the thing. That's the, teen pregnancy, or I don't know. There's just so much. Whatever your topic is, that is also your title for story of now. Okay? So those are the broad spectrum. What's this all about? Okay? So story of now, just to reiterate, is big issue stuff on the topic. Then you use the same subject and then bring it in one step closer to you with story of us. It didn't happen to you, but it could have, with examples of what those things are. And then the innermost one is the story of self, which is you. Okay? Have fun with this. It's meant to be interesting and fun. And let's do next week. Then going on to Module 7 for this week, because we're still playing catch up, is one of my favorite things, and it's about emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is different than IQ, which is your intelligence quotient, and you may have heard of that, like with someone's IQ. And here's the deal. Most people in the know agree that your IQ is pretty much your IQ throughout your life, right? It doesn't move a whole lot. However, our emotional intelligence level, our EQ, it's called, should go in a positive upward um, motion throughout our lives. The only time when that begins to stop or there's a break in emotional intelligence could be like a traumatic brain injury, or if some sort of dementia or Alzheimer's type occurs, then we see where somebody's emotional intelligence goes down. But here's the thing, and it's not good news for some of us. The thing is, you don't ever get to say anymore, well, that's just how I am. Like, if somebody said, well, I have a really bad temper and people just have to deal with it because that's just how I am. Nope. Mm-mm. That's totally within our control. So, that means that to have that positive upward motion throughout our lives for building our emotional intelligence, we're able to identify what's going on within ourselves better. So if my kid ran out into the street after a ball and a car was coming and the car stopped suddenly and I yelled at my kid, I mean, those of you who have been around kids before, the odds are really good that I'm not actually angry with my child, right? It would be, I was scared, but it manifested as anger. Ever have that happen? Yeah, not necessarily the ball and the kid in the car, but where you've been scared, but it comes out as something else. Or sometimes when someone's very sad or very uncomfortable, they start laughing, like really laughing, and it's totally not appropriate to the time. Just as an example, several years ago, my great grandma passed away, and she made it to 100 years old. And my sister and I were standing at the cemetery during the burial ceremony, I guess. And because she was our great grandma, there were a bunch of people closer to the inner stuff than we were. So we were outside and we were sad. I mean, we loved her. And there was this awning, and it had been raining, and then the rain kind of turned to slushy ice stuff. And since we just recently saw all this here, you can kind of relate to what I'm talking about. But the ice stuff started dripping off of the edge of the awning that was covering, most of the family. And it started dripping like ice water down the back of our coats because we were on the edge. And it was so freezing cold because it was wintertime in Iowa. And it struck both of us hilariously. Like, we were sad and we were so uncomfortable. And both of us started laughing. Like, not out loud, but like we were having some sort of coughing fit. So, someone with a higher emotional intelligence, it doesn't mean that you don't do something that's not matching up with an inappropriate time. Like, you could still get mad when you're scared. You could still laugh when you're sad or really uncomfortable. But a highly emotional intelligent person recognizes what's going on within themselves and goes, I'm not actually mad. I'm not actually deliriously happy right now. So that's part of emotional intelligence. The other part of emotional intelligence, and if you're like, I don't want to hear about feelings, I don't care about feelings, I don't want to sit here and hold hands and sing songs, we're not doing any of that. You make more money if you have a higher emotional intelligence. So even if you don't care at all about the touchy-feely stuff, people who have higher emotional intelligence make more money because they are also adept at reading other people. And that is what gets people hired. It gets people promoted. And I mean, it just goes on and on. You have higher, longer lasting relationships. You have more connections with networking. Like it just goes, it builds and builds and builds. And emotional intelligence can be used for bad stuff too. Like one of the most famous, highly intelligent, emotionally people who gets credit often in textbooks is Adolf Hitler, which he was able to very adeptly read other people around him, and he knew what to say to get people on board with his agenda. Someone else, also very highly emotionally intelligent, would be Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Again, someone who is very charismatic and knew what to say to get people to understand his agenda. So use your emotional intelligence for good, not evil. But it's worth knowing about this. Okay, so emotional intelligence goes into, and that's just like this much about emotional intelligence. Look in your book about more of it. It goes on about our learning style preferences with VARK. VARK is what you're doing this week for your participation grade. So no discussion, no quiz. You're doing the VARK assessment and then writing about it. So you're going to answer the questions fully and completely if you want all the points. And think about your learning style preferences. So here's the deal. Once we get all this information from Smarter Measure at the beginning of the semester and now VARK, and we'll talk about AchieveWorks here in a second, the idea is to gather all this knowledge and then decide, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, it's not a, okay, that was nice, and then toss it back, and okay, we did that, and we're never going to see that again. No, why would we do that? We're not wasting time. So the idea is to take these assessments and figure out what to do with the knowledge. So for instance, if you figured out when doing the VARK that you're a highly kinesthetic learner, like learn by doing, then it doesn't mean you sign up for a class for next semester, this summer or next fall, and get in the class and realize, okay, this professor just lectures the whole time. There's no doing. Then I should definitely quit. No, that is not what that means. You are supposed to figure out how to adapt your learning style preference to how someone teaches. And then on in your career, you're going to take your learning style preference and adapt it to how your boss manages and how your company operates. Okay? It's not you are the center of the world and everyone has to adapt around you. No, that's not how it works. How do you adapt so that you're most successful? So if someone was a highly kinesthetic learner, going back to that person, and it wasn't a lab and it wasn't a study abroad or some other opportunity where you're doing stuff hands-on, then you figure out how to make it hands-on. You go on YouTube and do your own extra experiments. You write things down by hand. That's a kinesthetic movement. Writing notes by hand, it engages a different part of our brains than if we're typing notes. So in module 3, where I asked you about the note taking and that kind of stuff, some of you guys missed the mark, because the idea is to figure out how to learn stuff so that you learn it, not just learn it to toss it. None of this is practice. You're in college now. All of this is the real deal. You're in the game now. So you're going to take what you get out of writing style preferences with FARC. And then the other thing that you're going to do this week is the AchieveWorks personality test. And that is looking at your personality types. So there's 16 different personality types in the AchieveWorks assessment. None of them are better or worse than the others, right? There's not a good one versus a bad one. You don't get your results and go, man, I wish I was an ISTJ. Those ISTJs have all the fun. No, that's not how this works. There's good and bad points to any of them, strengths and weaknesses. Okay? Some of you have identified already, and I'm trying to get the grades going as fast as I possibly can. Since I was without Wi-Fi for a little over a week. I'm getting caught up too. But like for instance, I'm an ISFP, and when I take the personality assessment, my on the bar graph that you get with the assessment results, where it has E on one side and I on the other for introvert and extrovert, mine is always in the center. And there's a phrase for that called ambivert. And what that means is, and a lot of you are coming up as ambiverts, so this is why I mention it, but it means you identify with both extroverts and introverts. Now, just quickly, an introvert is not someone who doesn't like people. That's like a hermit. That's a different term. Introverts get, the term gets misused a lot. It has nothing to do with whether you like people or not. It's how you recharge is the first letter, the E and the I. So I's, introverts, recharge by being by themselves. So they go out, they're with people in whatever capacity, but being around people drains them. Again, it's not that they don't like people, it's just that's not where they find their energy from. So then they go home and maybe close the blinds and silence their phone, and they need to recharge by themselves. That's what a strong introvert would look like. Extroverts are not necessarily, oh good, we get to listen to my son playing the cello. Extroverts are not necessarily the life of the party, because that one gets misused as well, but it's where people get their energy from if you're an extrovert. So it's hard for an extrovert to be quarantined. They recharge by being around other people. And it doesn't need to be like your best friend's group all the time, just people. And so someone who's an extrovert goes out, does their job, does their school or whatever it is that they're doing, and they recharge by being around people. They come home and their energy starts to go down if they're by themselves. Okay? So I need you to get that definition in your head straight instead of how people are like, oh, they're an introvert or they're an extrovert. Neither of those things is bad, it's just how they recharge. A lot of times we're drawn to our counterpart. So if you're a strong extrovert, then perhaps your best friend or your romantic partner is the opposite from you, because it's all about balance, right? Okay. Um, I'm going to talk more about the other 3 letters next week in the video with um, the rest of the personality characteristics, okay? Because that's a lot, and I know you have stuff to do. So I need you to get the AchieveWorks assessment done. Do not forget to send yourself copies of your stuff. I mean, even if I was on campus, I don't have any way to keep your stuff. You are supposed to keep your things. So, Smarter Measure, where I said send an email of it to yourself, that meant send an email of the results to yourself. If you didn't do that, get logged in and send it to yourself. I do not keep all of that information. And Smarter Measure sends me a condensed list of your characteristics. Okay? Same with the AchieveWorks and VARK. Right? You're going to keep some. I'm doing my part. We're good. I hope this finds you healthy and safe and warm. But I don't know. You guys are doing great. We're almost halfway done. Last spring, I remember saying this is the weirdest semester I've ever taught. And then this fall, I thought this was the weirdest semester I've ever taught. And now, this is the weirdest semester I've ever taught. So, I mean, we're all getting kind of used to it being really weird. But you're doing so well. I wish I could show you, just the list of grades. Like, you guys are knocking it out. And I am so impressed and so proud of you. All right. We got this. Next week, midterms. Week after that, spring break. All right? Take care. Let me know if you need anything.